Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go! Hi, folks, wherever you're checking me out, however you're checking out this podcast, I do appreciate it. Welcome. It's always a privilege to sit down with you and talk sports with my guests and let you kind of get in on our conversation. We got a great show lined up. We're going to talk to our resident scout, Craig Smith, about the upcoming CFL Combine, what scouts are looking for, and a busy off-season in the CFL and free agency kicking off. So we'll talk to him. He's been a multiple Grey Cup winner with the BC Lions, with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, wrapped up his scouting career with the Ottawa Redblacks. But, he's fallen on some health issues, but he's fighting his way back and says he even plans to attend the Combine or is hoping to in Regina coming up here in March. So we'll hear from Craig Smith. Also, the Four Nations face-off getting going. I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not overly excited because no Russia, no Czechia. We're missing some of the big powerhouses. I think it's absolutely stupid that athletes aren't allowed to participate because of ridiculous politics on the international level. It's not the athletes' fault. We get robbed of seeing Ovechkin in this tournament, Malkin, those kind of guys. So I'm kind of lukewarm, but I'm sure as a hockey fan, I'll warm up to it. I said I wasn't going to watch the Super Bowl, and I did. Anyway, we're going to hear from Mike Kelly, the NHL Network, and Jamie Thomas, also in Montreal, to cover this thing. He's a Winnipeg Jets reporter, and a chance for the likes of Connor Hellebuck, Kyle Connor, and Josh Morrissey to be on a national stage where they get more exposure, which they probably don't get the love they deserve playing in Winnipeg. Not that there's anything wrong with playing in Winnipeg, but you know what I mean. It's the smallest center, a place where not a lot of players want to play. In fact, The Athletic did a poll, and players said that is the shittiest place to play. Well, ask Jamie about that, see what he says. I'm sure that won't sit well with the guy who lives in Winnipeg now, but we will find out coming up. The show is brought to you by a bunch of great sponsors. Ward Tirecraft, 101 Dudney Avenue in Regina. Go check out Michael Barth and the gang. 10% off your tires and brakes if you say Ballsy Uncut sent you. Also, District Brewing, their Super Squeeze Seltzer. Seltzer's Mango Lime and Passion Fruit Lime. Thanks to Tim, Joe, and the gang for getting on board there. Also, Paul Waldo at Royal LePage getting the real estate game with the three-time Grey Cup champ. 306-502-5355. Gerhardt Studios, Nicole and Dean for helping me out with my social media and website. And the boys next door, window cleaning. Great gang there, Nathan and Landon, for your window cleaning in the spring and summer and fall, for your snow removal in the winter, and your track lighting, Christmas lighting, but it can be used year-round on your eaves trough, so you don't have to jump up there and do anything you don't want to do, like this fraidy cat on a ladder who is prone to being a klutz. Just ask my girlfriend, Chrisinda. I did break down and watch the Super Bowl. I'm a football fan. But hey, I was happy I did. The Eagles beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I was all chiefed out. I'm not a big Eagles guy. I think a lot of their fan base are dinks, except for my buddy Ryan Douglas, who checks out this podcast from Moose Jaw, and my buddy Troy Koser, who we've raised money for on this show in his battle with cancer. He's an Eagles fan too. But a lot of the Eagles fans are insufferable. But they did deserve to win that one. They were the better roster. I thought it was pretty cool to see Jalen Hurts win the championship. And I just got a text from my wife, from my girlfriend. I could have sworn I made cookies last night because I only had one and I was going to have one now, but I can't find them. Yes, I ate them, and so did my son. Thank goodness I made supper for her. Yes, we did pound those cookies. That's on her. Listen, I don't have many vices. I don't drink much. I don't smoke, don't do drugs, never done those things. I gamble once in a while, but nothing earth-shattering. But I do have a sweet tooth, and that's not good as a diabetic. Anyway, speaking of betting, I won some money on the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts, first touchdown of the game. Devontae Smith, a touchdown. Eagles winning on an alternate spread. I said the Eagles would win by 10 about 4 hours before the game. My son said, "Really, Dad?" I said, "Yep." And we didn't go quite that, but we picked 3 points and we won that. And then I said Patrick Mahomes over 255 yards passing, and it didn't look like he was going to do it, but they went deep on a bomb and they connected for a touchdown to Worthy as he dropped it in the bucket, put me over that elusive 255. So I won some money on the Super Bowl, which was awesome. Thanks, Patrick. Glad you lost, but you helped me win a bet. And the Eagles win their Super Bowl for the second time in their team's history. Hopefully one day that team above my right shoulder, if you're watching this, the Chargers, can win with Jim Harbaugh. Anyway, yeah. I thought it was, here's the other thing. Oh, Jalen Hurts becomes the fourth black quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Who gives a shit? Yes, I'm a white man. I get it. I don't know what it's like to have racism against me. But could we just leave that alone? Can we just put the racism alone? Just call him a great quarterback that won. Does it have to be black? Warren Moon said, he told me one of the interviews I did with him, he came to the CFL because back in the day, you couldn't be a quarterback if you were black. And I get it. Doug Williams, the first black quarterback. Still one of the dumbest questions in Super Bowl history when somebody asked him, what does it feel like to be a black quarterback in the Super Bowl? He said, I don't know. I've always been black. Like, what a dumb question. But we've moved past that. Can we move past that now? Jalen Hurts is just a great quarterback. But ESPN has to bring that up. There's a reason a lot of people don't watch ESPN. That may or may not be one of them. Anyway, So that was good to see Jalen Hurts come up with a big victory there. Hey, I watched my first bit of NBA basketball. I'm a Lakers guy, but I will not cheer for the Lakers while LeBron James is there. I don't like his politics. I don't like his preachiness. Although I guess you could say I preach too. I'm a little bit of a hypocrite that way, I suppose. But I just don't want, just shut up, LeBron. Play basketball. So I'll get back to cheering for the Lakers when he's done. But I wanted to see how Luka Doncic plays. And he had a pretty good debut with the Lakers. Anyway, I wanted to, I was looking at a crazy basketball stat. Actually, my son was telling me about this. Check this out. John Stockton, 19 seasons, same as LeBron James. John Stockton, little white guy, Utah Jazz, 1,504 games. LeBron James, 1,366 in 19 seasons. LeBron James has missed 155 games in those 1,366. John Stockton missed just 22 games. One season was shortened, 3 for LeBron. LeBron misses the playoffs in those 19 seasons 4 times so far. John Stockton, nothing. Now, LeBron has championships. John didn't win a championship. 16 times in his career, John Stockton played a full 82 games. LeBron, just one time. Unbelievable stats for Basketball Hall of Famer John Stockton. You do have to tip your cap, even though I'm not a big LeBron fan. What he is doing at the age of 40 years old, going up and down the floor. Now, he doesn't play every night like you're expected to play every week in football. Or like I think what Ovechkin and Crosby do is a little bit more impressive because they're playing mostly all 82, except for when Ovechkin kind of broke his leg there. Not kind of, he did break his leg. Came back really early for that, from that. But you have to give LeBron credit. Like, what he's doing is amazing. But Stockton played 82 games 16 times. All 82 games in 16 of his 19 seasons. In arguably a tougher time to, not arguably, it is a tougher time to play back when he played in the 80s and the 90s. And the dude was small compared to a guy like LeBron. And LeBron can travel and not get called for it. So, yeah, I'm a little bitter that way. But a tip of the cap to a remarkable career for John Stockton. Just kind of stumbled on that stat with my kid. I love the fact he kind of works as a pseudo producer here. All right, coming up, Mike Kelly from the NHL Network, Jamie Thomas, Winnipeg Jets reporter, and our resident CFL scout, our head scout, Craig Smith. This is Ballsy Uncut. All right, Jamie Thomas from Winnipeg, Jets reporter, joining me here. How are you, man?
Oh, listen, I feel really bad. Like, how bad is the lighting in this hotel room? Like, it just looks like it's like it's like after dark here. It's an after dark video.
I love
After dark. Yeah.
this is good. Hey, last we talked, your Dodgers, we were going into the playoffs. I was bragging my Padres. They had your team on the cusp and lost.
God, I hate the Padres.
I know you do.
I hate the Padres.
I know. So you guys won, and now you bought everybody. It looks like you're going to win for another 50 years.
I like how there's like articles out there that are saying, well, here's the reason why the Dodgers won't win, because that's the sexy thing to do. Like, how many ways can we prove that these guys aren't going to win? So you have Roki Sasaki, you have Shohei, oh yeah, Yamamoto, oh yeah, blah blah blah. I go down the list, and then you have a terrible, like just a terror of a batting order. So I realize there's a long road to hoe here, but you can bet everybody's gonna be jumping on that. We hate the Dodgers, and it's good. Like, if I was a fan of any other team besides the Dodgers, I would hate them too. But I think it's great for the sport to have that team that you hate. Like, the fact that everybody hates the Kansas City Chiefs right now is great for the National Football League. Just the way it was great when everybody hated the Patriots. People tune in because they want to watch them lose. That was when the Oilers were in their heyday. I, as a Calgarian kid, like, I could not wait till they lost. And in '87, the Steve Smith goal was my whole family was crying. So it's just like it's good for the sport. So I can understand why MLB is just like, please defer money. I don't care. People will watch, and they will if the Dodgers don't win, right? So
yeah. So who's the hated team in the NHL? Like, not personally, you don't like the Oilers. I like the Oilers. I know why you don't like the Oilers, but who's the hated team?
That's really hard to say because you can't, because of the salary cap. It makes it extremely difficult. But I don't know if there's a team right now where you're like, oh, I can't spend another minute watching them. Well, okay, let's be honest. The Toronto Maple Leafs, the hated team in the NHL. Yeah, like, it's too easy. Living in Toronto made me dislike the Leafs even more. Like, that was just because of how much you hear about them, because there's other stories to be told. But it's the same thing. I remember listening. I can't remember. It's a big radio show in the States when they like, how come you don't talk about the Kansas City Royals? You know, it's like, because you always talk about the Red Sox and the Yankees because people want to hear about them. It's just like, so it's just the way it works. That to me, with the way the Jets are going right now, they deserve more. They deserve more recognition. You know, I've talked to a lot of people here in Montreal from Hockey Night Canada, from Sportsnet, about, hey, the Jets. I'm like, yeah, start talking about them. Like, it's just it's you get the sense that there's something special is just around the corner for this team. But I mean, you can only say small market for so long for excuses of stuff. And I've heard that people, if Winnipeg won the Stanley Cup, you know that a lot of people in this country would be like, oh, okay, that's not, I don't mind. So, but if it's complete opposite of Vancouver or Toronto get to the Stanley Cup final, it's just like anybody outside those markets just don't want it to happen.
Mm-hmm. Hey, so I think part of the problem with Winnipeg, other than the fact that it's a small market, is that we don't know if we can trust them. Like, I don't know if I can trust. I don't know if I can trust the Winnipeg Jets. So why can I trust them more this year through your eyes than, say, last year?
Okay, so let's go with this. Experience is always something that you need to learn lessons from, and and growing up or being a human being, if you don't learn from your mistakes, then it's just like, I can't help you. So being a father, watching your kids mess up, you're like, I don't know how many times I can tell you this will happen, and you keep doing it, and you're not learning, and then you're wondering it as yourself as a parent. But I think for the Jets case, they learned a lesson last year that the system that they played through the regular season, when you get away from it and you don't focus, things will break down quickly. And it broke down very quickly against the Colorado Avalanche. Clearly, I heard Bruce Boudreau say this, the Jets had a bad week. And it was just a bad week during the playoffs. That's the problem. Like, you can't, like, they defended so well. What they're doing this year is making sure those types of breakdowns or those lapses are only for like one game. And it's just like, it's back, or for a period. And then it's back in the second period. Let's just say they are going to struggle every once in a while. And when the playoffs start, maybe that's in the back of their head. But I believe because of The power play is on fire right now. They lost a lot of games last year, Mike, because of the power play. They lost 5 that I can think off the top of my head because it was so atrocious. Now it's the number 1 unit in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Both power play units are scoring. They're not doing what the Oilers do, where the Oilers' top unit stays on the ice for a minute 45, and then the second unit gets 15 seconds. It's if the top line's on the ice, they're off. They go in the second unit. They have full trust in both that. And then Connor Hellebuyck is somehow better. I don't know how you can win a Vezina Trophy and then be better the following year, and he is. And that in itself, you could just sense the confidence. And I remember talking to Jamie McLennan about this. He says, when you're in the NHL for a long time as a goaltender, as you get older, the reason why you get better is because you know how to take care of your body. You know when to rest. You just understand the game a lot better, and you understand the shooters out there and stuff like that. So I think he's just in that place right now where I don't know if you're going to be able to beat them in a 7-game series now, just based on the confidence that he has to bounce back from. I can't even remember the last subpar effort he's had. I can't. Seriously, that's the scary part. And he's so far ahead in all categories, in wins, goals against average. You can talk about save percentage all you want, but he's in the big categories. He's number 1. Who's ever heard of that? Like, just for one goaltender to be leading in all 3 is like, that's Hart Trophy conversation stuff. And I know people will say, I remember Adam Lowry said this in 2020 when he won his first Vezina Trophy. That was the year there was the mass exodus of defensemen. Bufflin retired. Tyler Myers somewhere else. Ben Sherratt signed somewhere else. The reason why all those guys signed somewhere else because Dustin Bufflin was there. All of a sudden, Buff's gone, and now you got all these guys gone, and now you have to put a ragtag group of merry men together. And Connor Hellebuyck stole the show, and that was the whole thing with Rick Bowness when he came in. We don't want Connor Hellebuyck to be the number 1 star anymore. That has happened, but he's still the best goalie in the league. And you look, the last game the Jets played before the break, they faced the Islanders. They're up 4-2 on them in the third period. I thought it was over, but the Islanders scored once in the third, and then they had a power play. They had 8 shots, Mike. 8 shots in 1 power play. And then Connor Hellebuyck slammed the door shut, makes 35 saves. Ho-hum, another Jets win. So to answer your question, you can trust them, but here's the caveat I'll say with that. They got to get past the first round. I just know that still deep in the back of your mind, you're like, there's that voice, and they're going to be asked about it all the time. What about this? What about that? What about this? I remember watching a documentary. Remember when Buffalo lost 4 Super Bowls in a row? I remember the fourth Super Bowl, and I can't remember which player it was, but he's like being asked every day of the week, what happens if you lose this one? That wears on you. So they get past the first round, they get confidence, and then I think they're going to turn into a buzzsaw, and it'll be I'm not saying Stanley Cup, but it's going to be very difficult to beat them if they get past the first round, because that confidence will be soaring.
Before we get to the 4 nations and let you go, because they're busy, and I appreciate you taking time. Player polls. What do you make of them? The Jets were picked as the worst place to go, and so it really feels like it is the Winnipeg Jets against everybody else.
Yeah, I get tired of these polls.
Yeah.
You live in a prairie city like I do. I grew up in Calgary. I grew up in, I lived in Edmonton.
Hey, let me stop you for a second. I am not judging you because I live in Regina. So, I always joke that Winnipeg is a bigger Regina with an NHL team. Okay, so I'm not judging Winnipeg, but I have to wonder how it plays in Winnipeg.
Yeah, I get tired of these polls because it's the same. You know what the answer is going to be. So if the answer changes, then I think the poll should be shown, right? I just think it's like, we all know, Winnipeg is the worst place. Nobody wants to play there, but they're number 1 in the NHL. So the joke's on you. I think polls are great if you're going to get different results, or the result is interesting. We know people don't like the weather. We know it's cold. We know like all that stuff. The same thing, Regina, it's cold. Edmonton is cold. Where's the airport? I get tired of all these things because as NHLers, the commitment to the city is 8 months at most, right? And I know, and 4 of them suck flat out, but you get breaks.
Yes.
You leave the city, you go on the road for a bit. So to ask the same question over and over again, what team don't you want to play for? I think it's completely unfair. And it's not, I don't really think it's relevant unless there's like all of a sudden someone says Winnipeg is a great place to play, then get back to me. like that stuff like that. Or there's another city on the list. It's the same thing it's Buffalo, it's Edmonton, it's like like that. It's lazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lazy question because we know the answer to the question.
Right? Yeah, good
point.
point.
I'm not knocking the people that do it because they're being told by somebody else to do it, but it's just so tiring to hear it because I know how come Mark Scheifele decided to commit there? How come Connor Hellebuyck, the best goaltender in the world, probably could have gone anywhere, decided to commit to Winnipeg? Kyle Connor's committed. Josh Morrissey. These guys are all, Mark's not here, should be here.
Yeah.
They're all here in that Four Nations. They committed long-term to the city. So it can't be that bad if you think about it, because winning makes everything go away. No matter how cold it is.
So, Jamie, you mentioned a good point there. You mentioned three guys. We talk about exposure, small market Winnipeg. Now, this isn't the Olympics, and it's not. To me, I'm not as pumped for this tournament because Russia's not here. The Czechs. It doesn't. It's not really. I'm going to watch the American game. That's the one I'm interested in. But this gives exposure to Morrissey, to Hellebuyck, and to Kyle Connor, who might be the most underrated superstar, underappreciated superstar in the NHL.
Yeah, I think so. In respect to Connor Hellebuyck, he's starting to get the respect he deserves because he's in the conversation for the Hart. Like Toronto's going to talk about him as a Hart Trophy candidate, along with Leon Draisaitl, Nathan McKinnon, well deserving. So I think he's on the right path to people understanding what he is. But Kyle Connor is one of the best goal scorers in the National Hockey League, flat out. I don't care what anybody says. So I think if he has a good tournament, that helps him and his profile. Now, he's a quiet superstar. I'm sure he doesn't care. But as a guy that lives in Winnipeg, a guy that covers the team daily, I feel he deserves better. Same thing with Josh Morrissey. But when you talk to the best part of it, Ballsy, is this. You talk to other players around the league, that's who you should be asking. When they give you these answers, we're like, they know how good they are. It's just unfortunate that other people don't know how good they are. I feel Josh Morrissey had a coming out party in 2018 when he was with Jacob Trouba when they went to the conference final, but that was from his defensive side. Paul Maurice kept saying, wait till you see his offensive side. Well, that's come out now. He's one of the top scoring defensemen in the NHL. Cale Makar said it today. Colton Parayko sung his praises today. Jake Ottinger sung his praises today. So I believe all they care about as players is what their peers think. I care that the rest of the world knows how good these guys are because it's a waste. It's a waste that they don't get the recognition that they deserve because they're just so good. Kyle Connor's release is elite. His speed is elite. Josh Morrissey, the way he skates, his decision-making process, elite. So they need the recognition. So just for me and maybe for Winnipeg Jet fans out there, I feel this tournament's a huge opportunity for them. They don't need it because they, like I said, they get it from everybody else, the players they go up against, and they're here. What else do you need? But I feel like they deserve more, and I think they'll get it from this tournament.
So what do you think of the tournament? Like, you're there, I'm not there.
Yeah. Listen, Mike, I'll tell you this. When I heard it, I felt the same way about you. And I'll tell you about this. Outdoor games, all-star games, I'm like, they're terrible. Get rid of them. But until you come to one of them, I'm a big proponent of the All-Star game because it's just like it's rare when all those players are together and they're more relaxed because they're around their, it's like a more relaxed event. And same thing with the outdoor game. But when you go outside and the guys are skating outdoors, it's fantastic and the sight lines are tremendous. So, but this, I believe, people have to realize, okay, they might think it's a hokey tournament, but these guys, not all of them, maybe 25, 30% of them are auditioning for the Olympics next year. You can't tell me when that jersey goes on, they step on the ice. That's not the intensity is going to ramp up. Josh Morrissey will run Kyle Connor through the boards. It's different for them, and because it's been so long, Ballsy, that they play. It's been 7 years since Josh Morrissey's played an international tournament. 7 for Kyle Connor. I think it's 8 for Connor Hellebuyck. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
like Connor McDavid hasn't played in an international event. That's a crime. I understand the logistics of playing, and I know COVID played a large role in the last time they didn't go to the Olympics, but it's a crime that the international stage doesn't get to see this. And I think with ESPN, certainly on TNT and ABC down, here, and then certainly in Boston, a lot of eyes will be on the best players in the world. Because, buddy, it's like Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon,
Yeah.
Connor McDavid on the first power play. Shut up! Like it's just like.
Well, and let's be honest. That's as a hockey fan and watching Canada lose to the U.S. Well, not doing so well at the World Juniors, losing to the U.S.
Yeah.
Those are the games I'm pumped for. Canada, America. I'm not like I'll casually watch Canada, Finland, Canada, Sweden, but I'm watching Canada, USA.
Yeah, like especially with all this. I mean, it's all the hostilities between our two nations right now.
Yeah.
Saturday will be a little bit. It'll be very energetic in the Bell Center. I think that's the perfect place for it. And if they end up playing each other again in Boston, my gosh, like come on.
Yeah.
Like in Boston. United States and Canada, like whoa.
You raised something really good though. You raised something really good here though. An Olympic medal isn't on the line. It's not a true best on best because Russian athletes, no checks. I don't want to get into the political thing. I think it's stupid athletes get penalized for stupid politics and dumb wars.
I'm with you.
So that bothers me. So that's why I'm kind of. So my thing was, okay, is Ekholm really going to go after McDavid in the corner on kind of not really a best on best tournament? They're not playing for an Olympic medal. Like, is Josh Morrissey really going to run Kyle Connor through the boards? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought about that. That's
I asked Josh about that, and he said once the puck drops, the competitive juices are going to be going crazy. So we'll have to see. I think it will. I think it'll take one period for both teams. The U.S. plays Finland on Thursday.
Yeah,
I think it'll take both, but that game against Canada and the United States, and then Sweden and Finland hate each other too. So it's just, we'll see. You're going to enjoy it, man. I'm not trying to sell you and trying to get you to drink the Kool-Aid, but being here and listening to them all talk about it today, it's going to be special. And it's unfortunate that Russia and the Czechs aren't here, but with the it only being NHL players makes it a little challenging for Czechia to get everybody here and have a decent team. But man, like this is setting the stage for an incredible Olympics. I think let's go. Like drop the puck tomorrow. You'll see.
Yeah. So and let's before I let you go, that power that is going to be amazing to watch those guys. That might be the best power play in the history of hockey right there.
Yeah, like I don't even know how you stop it. Like, and then I look at the Americans, like Jack Hughes on your first power. Like, stop it. Like, it's just like Austin Matthews, Jack Hughes. It's gross. It is. The Americans are deeper than a lot of people are. Think Canada's deep, but the Americans are really deep, and it's actually terrifying. And you might even say like Canada, like the U.S. goaltending, Connor Hellebuck, Jake Ottinger, Jeremy Swayman. And then Josh Morrissey's not even on the two power plays here. That's the other part that just blows you away. That's how deep Canada is. Like Travis Konechny came back today. He didn't skate the first day, but now he's back, and Morrissey's on the penalty kill. But you ask any of those guys, they don't care. They don't care where you play them. That's the best part. They smile about it. Like they're so. Josh talked today about. You don't notice a lot of things until you get off the ice and you're in the dressing room and you look you see the roster and you see the lines, and he's like, because of my age group, the age difference, I'm playing with Sidney Crosby, and like they're thrilled about it. He's like, he's a legend. So you just think about Josh Morris, he's a perennial all-star. He's gonna be in the Norris Trophy conversation, and they're so excited to play with Sidney Crosby. That's the craziest part. So I think a lot of people will be pleasantly surprised if they tune in to what's going to happen here at this tournament.
Okay, you sold me. But I'm going to ask you one last question here. The Jamie Thomas prediction. Is Ovechkin going to break Gretzky's record before the end of the season? He is?
Yes, he is. Yeah, he is.
Wouldn't this be
on right now?
Yeah. Wouldn't this be the baller move, though? Would this not be the baller move of all baller moves? He ties Gretzky's record and then he retires?
Yeah, no, that's not happening. He wants that record. I just want him to do it. Like he is a freak because the fact that he doesn't really look like it works out. That's the part that blows me away. And it's just like he is unstoppable. Entering this year, I'm like, there's no way he breaks this record. And then he's on a tear. And the Capitals did the right thing by building around him because he deserved that opportunity for them to get another kick at the can again. Because he deserves to break that record. And if it wasn't for that broken leg, man, he'd probably be down to 5 goals by now because he was just going so crazy.
Yeah.
Leading
Yeah.
after that. So I believe he breaks it. March 25th he's in Winnipeg. So I hope the Gretzky, I hope the whole thing, the NHL is following him through that, because I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah. Hey man, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Enjoy the tournament, and you sold me. I'll be watching too.
Thanks, buddy. Seriously, you won't regret it, because just the way I swear to you, just listen to him talk today, you don't even know how good the hockey's going to be. You don't even know.
All right, welcome to the show. Our resident scout, Craig Smith, multiple Grey Cup winner. Hey, I was taking my son down a walk down memory lane, and we drove down Nagel Crescent. And I won't give your address out, but I saw your house. And your house that you're living in East Regina is literally a football throw away from where I grew up. And it's funny, I used to play football with my friends on the street. We'd play, go to the red truck and do a button hook. And I was Mervyn Fernandez or Roy DeWalt or John Huffnagel. And there was Dieter Brock and James Murphy. Those were the days back in the day. You don't see that anymore.
No, when I was young, I did the same thing on my street in Transcona in Winnipeg. And I was Peter Lisk and Ron Lancaster and all, So, yeah, things certainly have changed. No, nobody plays on the street anymore.
No.
It's kind of funny.
It is. It's funny and sad at the same time. Yeah. Craig, you got a better bill of health recently, which we've talked about before. That's some good news. The ticker's working good now.
Yeah, the fraction ejection was in between 50 and 52, and those who know that that's is pretty much normal. It has, and almost like it's regenerated, and it's doing a heck of a lot better. And so I'm doing pretty good. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to see if I can make it out to the combine. I got a wheelchair now, so if I had to walk, there's no way, because I can walk, but I just can't walk far.
Mm-hmm.
So with a wheelchair, it makes it a little different. So I'll see how close I can get. I know a lot of CFL people, but I'm thinking I hope I can get out there, because I sure as hell miss it. I miss the last one I went to was here in 2017. And I missed all those, but I still watch them on I guess it's TSN.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's streamed with Ferguson, Marshall Ferguson.
Marshall Ferguson and Jim Barker do a lot of the work now. Yeah. So
I'm hoping that I can get out there. I would just love to. And see, I'll tell you, I haven't seen guys for a long time, so I'd love to get out and see a lot of the guys.
So give the kids that are watching this. My son's one of them. It's actually funny. Today I went to the McCarra Street Level 10 compound and watched Ethan, my son, with Dan Farthing, who's my cousin, and he was working him out, and a Joe. And Ethan's been working out with the Brammers and the Godbers and all those guys of the world. But give the Ethans, the Boschemans, I've had Finley on the show, the Rams, the Husky kids that are going to the combine. What kind of advice would you give to the stars of tomorrow today that are trying to turn some heads at the combine?
Well, hopefully they've been working their ass off, because us idiots with the stopwatch, we like to take a look at that stopwatch, and it's just an indicator. It's just like everything. We gather all the information, put it all together, and everything is an indicator. Everybody goes, oh, testing, but it's just an indicator. It shows the training, shows, if a guy does have speed, if he doesn't have speed. Some guys can't run a 40, but they're still fast. So, you've got to take all that stuff in. You watch the film, you marry it all up, and then you make a decision. So hopefully the guys are working, and even if they are training for the 40, for the short shuttle and all those different things, that's not a bad thing. It's just try to do technique and try to get that time down, and because guys will look at that information and go, look at this guy, look at the quickness he had on the 3-cone, and it'll be like I said, an indicator.
Is there one? Is there one more than another that you look at there? Like, is it if the kid can run, if he can jump? Is there one test that weighs more than the other?
Put it all together. 40, can the kid run? Can he go? Is he a straight line guy? And then, okay, what about his change of direction? Can he, can he plant and go? And can he do it quickly? And, like the 3-cone or the short shuttle. And then the jump, does he have explosion? Does he have hip explosion? Can he get up there? And the broad jump, all those different things, it all adds up. And then the other thing is they'll measure the hand size, measure the arm length, for offensive linemen, or, a big hand helps in the game of football. Quarterbacks, if you get the kid that went down from Laurier.
Elgersma, yeah.
Elgersma. He had a big mitt, and that helps, but that doesn't mean that, that's the end all, but it's just an indicator again. And so they'll do that, and then they'll sit down. And I would tell those kids just to be yourself. Don't answer anything that, this is what they want to hear. Just be honest, be truthful, be yourself. And if guys will find out what the deal is, they'll have talked to, if they're doing their work, and I'm sure they will, they'll be talking to trainers, they'd be talking to equipment guys, talking to the coaches. Sometimes talking to the coaches is a little deceiving because everybody and their dog wants their kids to do good. But unless this kid is a real bad guy, then they'll, say, oh, geez, I don't know. So they're going to find out. So when you get into those interviews, and those interviews are, don't be nervous. Just go on in there, be yourself. Some of the questions that some of the teams, in my estimation, are ridiculous. I just think, well, what the hell does that have anything to do with it? But, you're going to find out some information. What we did, it was Saskatchewan a couple of times. What we would do is the guys would get up on the board. So you get an indication of how football-wise, what, offensive line, okay, what about blocking schemes, or, a receiver, route trees, or whatever, you get up on the board and see what type of football knowledge the kid has. And that's, again, a lot of times, the kid's nervous, but just go in there, be yourself, don't be nervous, have fun. And that's the big thing, is when you go in there, have fun. You're going to meet a lot of people, you're going to meet a lot of players, there'll be friendships for life. And, the bottom line is, if you got it, they're going to find it. If you don't have it, they'll know. So just have fun and, get in there.
Hey, Craig, it's been a busy off season. We've seen a lot of moves here. Mark Killam gets a crack in Edmonton. Vernon Adams Jr. goes to Calgary. The Ford brothers reunite in Edmonton. It's been a wild start to free agency so far. Jake Mayer comes over to Saskatchewan, which I think is a good signing. Let's start with the Riders. Are you surprised how little, or, are you surprised by any of the Rider moves, I guess the best way to put it?
Not really. Some of the Rider moves, I looked, as I was sitting, I was watching them, well, that's a pretty good signing. Well, I like that one too, so I don't think that they've gone crazy, but I think that they've helped. They had a good base anyway. They had a good group of guys before. Look at they went to the Western Final. Now it's just a matter of adding. And, the kid that they signed from Laval, the right guard, that's going to solidify that interior offensive line. And they lost Godber. I think he went, where'd he go?
He went to Ottawa. So do you think they moved? As we talk now, they haven't signed another quote-unquote center. Could you see Logan Ferland moving into center there?
That's a good question. I mean, that's a difficult thing, right? I mean, when you go from outside to inside, all the different things that your responsibilities change. And I don't know the kid well enough. I know that he's been in the league a long time. He did go over there and did it. And, because that'll be interesting. I don't know how many centers are left. So
I think Mike McEwen, as we talk, was a free agent in Calgary, and he'd be a good one to get, but there hasn't been any signing as you and I are talking right now.
McEwen would be excellent, but what's it going to take? But yeah, he's pretty darn good. That would be a good thing. But I think they've did some good things, and getting Mayer. What happens with Trevor? Trevor gets hurt, So, and Mayer, a lot of people will say, oh, yeah, but look what he did. But at least he's a guy that can go out there and take snaps and he won't be nervous. And, just look what happened to Arbuckle last year. Like you
Yeah.
scratch your head and you go, geez, I'm not sure about Arbuckle. He goes in, he plays an unbelievable game with Toronto.
I think Jake Mayer's got a huge upside. I mean, 2 years ago when he took over for the legend Bo Levi Mitchell, they made the playoffs because the Riders soiled the sheets and they got in the back door, didn't do much. Last year they had a worse team and he had better stats. Now, listen, he's got to learn to finish games off and make the critical plays, but he's also a young guy. Like, I think you're right. Trevor Harris hasn't dressed for a full 18 games in 10 years. So you gotta bake it in that he's not going to play a full season. I think Jake Mayer's a perfect fit there.
Well, it would be nice if Trevor did. I'd love to see Trevor Harris play a full season, see what can happen, but it hasn't happened. So, Mayer, it's a good safety net to have a guy like that. And, they lost Shea. Shea went to Winnipeg and so I'm really excited. I can hardly wait, because all the different signings and different things and Kenny Lawler going to Hamilton, and Hamilton looks like it's going to be Winnipeg East because Ted's gone there and he's snatched a few Winnipeg Blue Bombers and it'll be interesting to see what Winnipeg does. I think they've put a pretty, without Lawler, I think they put together a pretty good receiving room. And, obviously having, Zach and with Shea, he wasn't bad. I mean, he went in, he did some decent things.
And they got Strevler there still too, so that'll help out. And it looks like Winnipeg's kind of replacing the star power. I mean, they re-signed Schoen, but they're trying to, they got Stearns out of Saskatchewan and Reggie White Jr. coming out of Montreal. So they're trying to,
Dylan Mitchell as well.
Yeah, so they're trying to do it more by numbers than sheer star power. Hey, when you look at it too, though, Vernon Adams Jr., He's never quite been the guy anywhere he's been, so this is a chance to take the bull by the horns in Calgary in a critical year for the Stamps under Dave Dickinson.
Well, when he filled in, he was really good. He did a lot of really good things, and I think a lot of people have watched him when he was at Eastern Washington. He went over to Oregon, and he, as a CFL guy, I would look at him and go, man, this kid. It's going to be excellent. This guy is going to be a CFL quarterback if he comes up. Of course he did. And, he has the tools to do that. He showed that he can make plays. He was really, really good in a lot of the games. Like you said, okay, now it's you. Now you're the guy. Now he hasn't had to really do that. Now let's see what happens. Is that pressure going to get to him? Or is he just, okay, let's go. Here we go. And
hey, Craig, do you think Trey Ford has what it takes to be a starting quarterback? That's an interesting combo now in Edmonton. You go from Grey Cup champ and hero in Cody Fajardo to now a guy that's probably going to be the backup to start the season behind Trey Ford, but Cody Fajardo's proven obviously he can do it. My question to you though is, what do you think of Trey Ford here?
Let's go and say, okay, what does he have? Does he have the tools? Well, it looks like it. Kid can throw. Kid's got mobility. What do you look at for a CFL quarterback? Guy who has mobility. Look at, and we talked about this before, going way back. Warren Moon and all these guys, and even guys like Tom Clements. They, weren't super fast, but they had that mobility. He is incredible how such an athlete he is. Now, the big thing, accuracy. Can he throw the ball accurate? Can he do all those different things? He was sometimes no. Sometimes it was, geez, why did he make that throw? But then there's other times you go, oh, crap, look at that throw. So it's time. It's time for him. He's got the opportunity. Trey, and you got your brother there too. So, and I think that's Edmonton is I think they've done a pretty damn good job.
You know, it's funny you should say that to wrap up. I think that's going to be the most interesting team this year because they signed a pile of guys. They've totally remade their roster. They've got a new head coach who has no head coaching experience, and they're in win now mode. Like they got to get the fans on board. The league is better with a stronger Edmonton. It used to be the powerhouse team. We started this interview talking about how I played football, and I never mentioned being Tom Wilkinson or Warren Moon or Jim Germany or Tom Scott or Brian Kelly. Like they were a powerhouse for years. So they've fallen on tough times. They can't draw flies. Let's hope for a league standpoint that they can kind of get back to being very competitive.
Well, that'll change because if they start to win, the people will come back. That's, that's definitely a football place. And I'll just, lastly, I have a good friend. He's been in the CFL and he's worked in the NFL, and he had worked with Killam before. He calls him Killer, and he worked with Dick Vermeil in St. Louis, and we were talking, and I said, "Well, what do you think about Mark Killam being head coach in Edmonton?" Well, he said, "You know what?" He said, "When I was in Calgary, I loved him. I thought he was great, and as a matter of fact, he reminded me of Dick Vermeil with his work ethic and his knowledge of the game of football." And that's not to say that that's Dick Vermeil and that's what he's going to do, but he has those qualities. Look what happened with Dinwiddie. Dinwiddie never coached before, and then all of a sudden he went there and two Grey Cups. Kill him, you never know. I mean, he's a good coach. He's a good special team coach. Players love him. We'll see what happens.
Lastly, that's a good point, Craig. Very good. That's why I have you on here for being a very astute, intelligent football guy. Listen, you could make a case that Ryan Dinwiddie's the best coach in the CFL right now. We talk about Mike O'Shea, and I don't want to be prisoner of the moment, but he's been a head coach, 4 years, been in the Grey Cup 2 years, an East final with a record season 16-2, and they lost. And the 2 Grey Cups he won, Craig, he won with backup quarterbacks.
He did. And and when you think about that, you're like, how can that happen? How can you go and win, with Arbuckle and then with Chad Kelly, who was the backup, and, obviously McLeod, played most of the game and all that kind of stuff. But, Dinwiddie was here, so I got to know Dinwiddie. Wolf eyes, those beautiful eyes, and he's, and the other thing, he's a Boise State guy. Now, Kellen Moore is going over. He's the Boise State quarterback, and he's going to be the New Orleans coach. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. With the old Boise State quarterbacks, how are they going to do? That'll be interesting. With Toronto. But the thing is, Toronto's lost several players from that team, and it'll be see what happens, see how they replace those guys, and that's the personnel guy's job to do now.
Hey, one other thing. Has it always been this way, or does it feel like it is more now because of shorter contracts? It seems like this is a year-to-year league. Like you don't really what Winnipeg has done has been spectacular for 5 years in a row to get to the Grey Cup, even though they only won 2. I still think that's an unbelievable feat.
They were so close.
Right, but to me, more so now than ever, Craig, it feels like it's a year-to-year league, a training camp to training camp league. It's not. You don't have those guys that stay around for 4, 5, 6 years.
Well, think about it. Pretty much every team has 25 guys that they have to re-sign. Think about that. I mean, that's half your guys, and a lot of them are top-notch, upper echelon guys. So, I can't stand it. It's obviously great for the players, and we need the players. That's the bottom line. And it's fantastic for the players, but when you're on the other side, when you have to do that every year, you have to re-sign, and you want the players to get money, and you want them to be happy and all that kind of stuff, but it's very difficult when you only have a guy for a year, and then, okay, is he going to be back? Maybe not, but yeah, it's a year-to-year type thing. There's no doubt.
Craig, thanks for your time, man. We'll have you on again around the draft, okay?
Sounds good. Take care.
All right, Mike Kelly at the NHL Network joining us here, covering the Four Nations face-off. How do you feel about this tournament?
I like it. I mean, I guess it's in place of an all-star game, right? And I think all-star games are great for kids. I remember being a kid and absolutely loving them. I've got young kids, so I think for that, it's great. For me as a grown adult who hasn't seen the best players in the world play each other, at least partially, as we will in this tournament with 4 countries, I'm excited. I know it's got, it's not the Olympics. It's not a World Cup of hockey for whatever that's worth. It's 4 countries and it kind of is what it is, but I'd rather it existed than it didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, true. I'm kind of not, it's a good way to put it. I'm not, as I told Jamie Thomas earlier on the show, I'm not pumped about it. Russia's not here for political reasons. Czechia can't get enough guys. So we're missing 2 big countries. So I'm kind of lukewarm to it. I guess what I'm really excited, I probably won't get as excited to watch Finland and Sweden as I will Canada play in the U.S.
Yeah, that's going to be a great one. That's Saturday, doubleheader, Montreal. Look, Finland and Sweden will be fun in its own right, just because those countries don't like each other the same way that Canada and the U.S. doesn't. Going to say when it comes to sports, but there's a lot going on in the world right now. So it'll all be good. It'll be fun. A lot of these guys, for all 4 countries that are stars and have been stars in the league for a long time, haven't even represented their country in a best-on-best tournament, let alone played together. We're going to get to see McDavid and McKinnon and Crosby and Makar on the same team, and the Kachuk brothers and Eichel and Matthews. From that end of it, I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a good point. And how about that power play for Canada? That's going to be crazy.
So stacked. It's look at the USA. Dylan Larkin is 3rd in the league in power play goals. He can't even crack one of the top units. It's wild, the amount of talent. But yeah, that Canadian first power play, you never know how these things are going to click. We've seen really talented power plays in the NHL. Look at Pittsburgh over the last couple of years struggle. So they look like they've got, though, Canada, the perfect blend. Reinhart, net front guy, Crosby goal line, Makar doing his thing. It's go on and on, right? I haven't even mentioned the best players.
Yeah, so I look at a team like Winnipeg that's in Winnipeg, and it's a team that we say we don't trust. But you got 3 guys on that team that are going to get more exposure than they would normally get. In Kyle Connor, who I think is an under the radar superstar. You got Connor Hellebuck, who's in the running not only for the Vezina but the Hart Trophy, and Josh Morrissey, who's not even on the first 2 power play units, and he's a stud.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. Hellebuck's got something to prove. This isn't some gimmick thing for him because he's never gotten all the way there, at least to a cup final in the playoffs. And his last playoffs, I don't hang a ton of it on him when you think about how many goals they gave up. So many of them were with screens and all that. But you know what? As my good friend Jamie McLennan will tell me as well, you can stop the screenshots too, and you can stop the deflections too. So he's got something to prove because it didn't go well for Winnipeg. Now, if he can go out, play lights out, USA wins the tournament. It's not a Stanley Cup, but maybe that quashes some of the doubt as you go into the playoffs this year of this guy's won on a big stage against the best. Yeah. So there's something to prove for a lot of players in this tournament. And I like that you mentioned Kyle Connor as well. He's a star player and has been a long time. Easy 30 goals every year. Is he bumping into superstar territory? He's never going to win a Hart Trophy, I don't think, but there's not a lot of guys that can score the way he does that play with that speed, and he's got a bunch of assists, ton of points.
Mm-hmm. Hey, we're hearing a lot about McKinnon, Draisaitl for the Hart Trophy, but you got to really talk about Connor Hellebuck. He is, he's the Vezina Trophy winner, the reigning guy, and he's probably better than he was last year, which is hard to believe.
I know he's having his best season ever statistically, and you're right. He's coming off winning a Vezina. He's doing things that he hasn't done before, which is pretty crazy because he's played at such a high level. The other guy I'd throw into that mix for the Hart Trophy just to hopefully start the conversation is Quinn Hughes. It's the award that's deemed, the player most valuable to his team. And I know a lot of people are going to tie it to whether you make the playoffs. And if Vancouver does, and that's how you vote on it, how do you not have Quinn Hughes in that conversation?
Yeah. No, that one, I forget what game it was, but that pass where he put it underneath the guy's skates, like it was like a shoot to win board. He stuck it under the guy lays on his belly to try to block it. I forget who it was, and he passes it across to Garland, who scores. It was an all-star game play there.
I know. Hey, he does it all the time. Like it's pretty wild. Just one of those crazy stats is just the way that he can control the tempo of a game, like his puck possession skills. He's got it. I don't have the numbers exactly right in front of me, but he's got the puck on his stick. It's about 3.5 minutes a game, and there's nobody within 30 seconds of him. Which you extrapolate that over a year, that's a lot of time. To the next best guy, which is Cale Makar. This isn't league average we're talking about. So yeah, he's on another planet with some of what he does. It's a bummer he won't be here. His brother Jack's on the team. That would have been cool. If you're a Canadian hockey fan, maybe you don't mind it so much because you don't have to deal with him, and your team in Vancouver gets to rest him up.
Does Canada have the goaltending that can hold up in this tourney, do you believe?
Can it hold up? The way you phrase that, I think, yes, it can. Binnington's going to be the starter. They clearly left the best Canadian goalies at home. Like, you can't objectively argue against that. And in fairness to the guys that are here, I think definitively you could only say from the time the team was picked 2 months ago, there's one guy that should be here than isn't, and that's Logan Thompson. And he's only widened the gap of how much better he's been than every other Canadian goalie this year and the time since. Canada has gone with, proven guys. I think, top of my head, the only goalies in this tournament that have won cups both play for Canada. Aiden Hill and
good point.
Binnington.
Good point.
And I was doing a bit of research because I'm thinking, like, me as a numbers guy more than anything, I'm like, all right, you won a Stanley Cup 6 years ago or 2 years ago. What does that have to do with right now for 4 games? I think more than probably I give it credit for, or people might think, the 2002 Olympic team, statistically, and just a simple thing like save percentage, Canada didn't pick any of the top 10 guys that year. And that list included Luongo, who's younger, Jose Theodore in his Hart Trophy year. They went with guys that have been there and done that, and maybe earlier in their career or not as recent, and they won. So I think Canada can win with Binnington. Absolutely. Or Aiden Hill or Sam Montembeault. I also am convinced that they have the worst goaltending of any of the 4 teams in this tournament, and it didn't necessarily have to be that way.
It's interesting. Very interesting. Is there anything in particular besides, like we talked about the power play, we've just talked about goaltending. Is there anything in particular in this tournament you're going to focus on numbers-wise, or what are you going to watch for in this? What are you interested in?
Yeah, you know what? It's a max of 4 games for 2 teams. You're not getting too crazy into numbers with these things. There's not enough games. I do think Canada and its speed, its straight line speed from its defense right through its forward group is going to be their biggest advantage over other teams. USA skill-wise is right there with them. They're not going to be as quick, but I think that if it gets into like a Stanley Cup final, 2-1 game 7 type of game, battles on the walls, all those kind of things, that's where I think the US team could have an advantage. Sweden, I'm not sleeping on Sweden. You look at the first game against Canada, and in this tournament, you lose 2 games, you're done. So this is not a slam dunk for Canada, in my opinion, over Sweden. And if they don't beat Sweden, they're going to have to beat the Americans, which they can, but they're going to have to. So this Sweden-Canada game Wednesday, to me, for those 2 countries, it's like the biggest, because they both should beat Finland. And they both could, but might not beat the American. Like, this is the game. I think you can look back and say, that's the game.
That's a good point.
And it's the first one. So Sweden's got an advantage in goal. Their decor is unreal. They've got 3 crazy shutdown guys in Forsling, Ekholm, and Brodin, and that's not even mentioning Hedman. This is not a gimme for Canada. So it should be a good game.
Yeah, you got my juices going. You and Jamie. I really was kind of, but you got my juices going. I can't wait.
Once you're in front of your TV and the puck's about to drop and you see the guys in the jerseys, you'll get, like I say, everyone's going to get all fired up.
I just wonder, though, it's not the World Cup, it's not the Canada Cup, not everybody's here, and it's certainly not Olympic medal on the line, okay? So as I asked Jamie, I know they're alpha dogs, these guys playing, okay? But do you really believe Josh Morrissey's going to run his guy Kyle Connor through the boards? Is Ekholm really going to whack and hack and whatever on Connor McDavid? Like, do you really think there's going to be that level of intensity?
So this is where it'd be helpful if you had a guy who played in the NHL or in the Olympic tournaments or international on right now instead of me. But I'm going to give you this is not apples to apples comparison. Like, I play men's league and I get penalties for being an idiot and pushing a guy after a whistle, and it means nothing. Like, it means absolutely nothing. So let's just take that 100 million steps further to these professional athletes in the NHL. And I've heard them talk about McAvoy talking about being there today, how great it is. And you put that jersey on, like, I don't think you're going to try to hurt a guy necessarily, certainly a teammate, but I don't know. And again, I can't speak from experience. I get the feeling that when those jerseys are on and the puck is dropped, forget this trophy that never existed and may never be seen again that they'll win. I think that alone is going to drive these guys to be pretty fired up. Like, I don't think we're going to see guys dropping the gloves. I do think we're going to see hard hits and high battle level.
Yeah. So that was our final countdown, Bell. So let's get into the last couple of questions here. Mike Kelly. I am a little disappointed Rush is not here because then Ovechkin can't play and with the season he's having. So in your crystal ball, do you see Ovi breaking Gretzky's record before the end of the year?
I didn't think he had a hope in hell this season at the start of it, to be honest. You look at how he started last season, so cold. Yeah, he got hot. He's even older coming into this year. And I tell myself this all the time, never doubt the superstars, and I still do it sometimes. So I'm going to say no, because probability-wise, I don't think he likely will. I'm sure he will. So, and I honestly think it'd be cool if he was a few short by the end of the year, because the chase would be amazing. But then you'd have all year to think about he's going to do it at the start of next season and really plan it up. So a lot of me thinks it'd be really cool if he does it in October next year. You just get more bang for your buck. Yeah. God, if he does it in the next 10 games, I'll be surprised. I won't be shocked with that guy.
Yeah. McDavid, no, listen, he's still great, but it seems like at times he's been has it on cruise control this year or sleepwalking a little bit. I wonder if he's had the flu the last couple of games because it hasn't been Connor McDavid-like. But I just wonder if a tournament like this just propels him for the second half of the year because he's never played internationally as a professional.
It might. I mean, this is going to be certainly not a layup for Canada to win this thing. They're going to need I think that's where they have an advantage over every other team is their best players are better than everybody else's. Like their top three guys, I think, are the top three in the tournament. So he's one of them, and he's going to have to play that way for that advantage to matter. And those guys, like the one thing I've learned in, following the game, being around some of these guys for some degree of time, the best of the best benchmark themselves against the best in their sport, but others as well, right? And so this is, four nations face off, and we didn't even know what that meant a year ago. But it's a best on best tournament. You want your name attached to being a winner on that team, right? So I think for those guys that are so hyper elite and focused, I do think these things matter to them for those reasons.
All right, so one more crystal ball for you, Mike Kelly from the NHL Network, Sports Logic. So will this be the only time internationally that McDavid and Crosby play together, or will we see them at the Olympics? It's just kind of a primer for that.
I hope, and I definitely think it's a primer. Yeah, I don't see why Sid wouldn't be there next year. Obviously, Connor's going to be there, barring injury or whatever unforeseen with these guys. So, yeah, I think so. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Like, some heads rolled with, I shouldn't say that. Some new positions were created with Hockey Canada, given the shortcomings it had at the World Junior Tournament. Yeah. So there was ownership there that this wasn't good enough and we need to change. Now this is different, but if it doesn't work out, and in Canada, the paying customers and the fans, it's like you either win it all or you didn't. That's it. Then it's going to be two things kind of in a row starting to snowball before the Olympics. So I expect them to be there. I expect them to be great in this tournament. We take so much pride in this country for how we do when it's best on best. And that's, when Canada doesn't win at the World Juniors, the last thing that we always have is like, yeah, well, our best are better than your best. Just go look at all the tournaments that really matter.
Yeah.
Well, this is one of them, kind of. So it's go time.
Yeah, and that's a good last point. With everything going on in the world, tariffs, Trump, the Canada back and forth, which I never thought I'd see. This takes on a little added incentive, and also the fact that the World Juniors didn't go the way that we thought they'd go, or we wanted them to go on home turf. So this maybe is there's a little heat on Canada here to do something.
Well, look, I wish there wasn't the added storylines and heat between Canada, USA playing this game they're going to play on Saturday, potentially a final as well. But there is. So the building will be different. Like we've heard anthems getting booed, since Trump took office, and things that, obviously in a perfect world, you don't want to see, right?
Yeah.
You're an ally and a great one. But there's this kind of bubbling undercurrent of a lot of tension. And now we got the jerseys on for this game on Saturday. So
yeah,
the Bell Center is going to be, it's the best place in the NHL you could put these games because it's the best atmosphere. So it's going to be electric.
It's funny. National unity in Montreal, in Quebec. Isn't that something? Like, that's crazy.
Yep. We're making strides in that sense, at least. That's can't be a bad thing. So I lived here for 4 years until recently. I love the city and the people are great.
Yeah.
But anytime you can bring the whole thing together, even better.
Hey, Mike, good luck on the NHL Network. You do a great job. Thanks for your time. I do appreciate it. Okay.
Anytime, Ballsy. Good talking to you.